Outside the Book continues from the Southern Kentucky Book Fest 2015. I'm Barbara Deeb, and honored to have with me right now Kelley Paul, author, wife of Senator Rand Paul, and now wife of Republican presidential candidate Rand Paul. So that happened since we booked this interview. I
Yes.
have to ask you, first of all, how are you?
I'm great. It's been fun so far. I think it'll be a marathon, but I'm excited and feeling really optimistic and happy about it.
Well, and when you say marathon, that may be a bit of an understatement of what's to come, but it is nonetheless a beautiful opportunity for you.
I agree. It's an opportunity. It's a privilege. I mean, being in the Senate for the last 4 years has been the same. We've been honored to represent our state and also meet so many wonderful people, not only all over the state, but all over the country. So I feel very privileged to
Well,
be
and
in
it
this.
just coincides, just so happens that Kelley authored a book. It's called True and Constant Friends. Rand also has a book. When did you decide to, I mean, you have a background with a lot of writing in corporate communications, but when did you decide it was time that you had this something that you needed to put to the page?
Well, I actually wrote a speech about my grandmother about 2.5 years ago. And every time I gave that speech, people would come up to me and want to tell me stories about their grandmothers. My
Ah.
grandmother really embodied the American dream and the American spirit. She was an Irish immigrant who came to this country at 19 with absolutely nothing but the clothes on her back, fleeing extreme poverty in Ireland. And she was so inspirational to me as a child and a young woman that I wanted to sort of share the characteristics of her and her generation and what that meant to our country. And after giving those speeches and seeing the reaction, I decided I want to explore this. So I wrote a series of essays about her. And then I got the idea to reach out to my oldest friends, women that I've been friends with for 32 years from college, and ask them to take me on a trip 100 years back in their lives. Who in your life was Julia O'Toole to you? And I was curious at first. I never dreamed that they would have the amazing stories that they had. I know these women really well, but I learned so much about each one of them on this journey and in this experience. And I think the book really shows the extraordinary gamut of experiences that we all have just in our families.
And especially as it relates to the female species and the
Yes.
gender in our families. The strong female, what does that mean to you?
You know, I've always been a very female-centric person. In other words, I have extremely close friends that I've maintained relationships with, not only these friends who live all over the country, these are my college friends, but my friends here in Bowling Green. They are such a source of support and inspiration for me. And also my mother and my grandmother. So I think that in my life, I've felt like women could do whatever they wanted to do. My nieces are doctors, veterinarians, and chemical engineers. You know, I've been able to pursue the things that I was interested in my life, and I feel really blessed and fortunate that in this country we are able to do that.
Well, and now with a potential road to the White House, I mean, that could be a bully pulpit, it could be a real stage to put forth some of these strong women, some of these women's issues.
I hope so. I mean, I'm very encouraged by the reaction that people have had to the book. Once I sort of got the concept of the book, I decided to weave in quotes from all of my favorite authors.
Oh,
And
nice.
then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go with all my favorite female authors to kind of keep with the theme. I've been in a book club here in Bowling Green for 22 years. And so all of the quotes in the book are from books that our book club has read. So that was another way that I could weave in another layer to the book and also include my Bowling Green connection.
You know, in our business, we say everyone has a story to tell. And it is very clear after what you said about these friends that you've known for over 30 years, suddenly when you ask them to tell their stories, you learn something new about them. So what advice would you have for our audience as it relates to, you know, sometimes I think we take for granted those people around us. We might want to try to hear their stories.
I agree. This book, for me, really tries to illustrate the idea that family lore Oral tradition is so important. I believe we just cannot let that die, and I want to encourage people to get out the recorders, talk to your grandmothers and your grandfathers. In my life, the most powerful memories for me, my most incandescent and powerful memories are of small moments. The things that I remember the most are moments with my mother, my grandmother, people in my life that really understood me and saw me for what I had to offer and inspired me. And I want people to think of that way in their own families and not let those memories die.
Kelley Paul, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to encourage you as you make this run for a Republican nomination for president, that you remember to savor those small moments as well.
Thank you. I will.
Thank you. Thank you. Kelley Paul has joined us from Outside the Book.